part two of your question is basically, can Chiang Mai now become a positive thing? Now that Harley has quit, right? Because he quit his own festival. And apparently Sam is going to try to take it over. No, I absolutely morally oppose doing this in Thailand.
À-bas-le-ciel.
Okay, so this is really kind of a two-part question. Part one, I want to say this again. I've said this many, many times. Part one is really implicitly asking me, do I see anything positive in Durianrider's channel or his legacy? And in the past, this is probably like more than a year ago, but many, many times I did say, look, I also do see some good things about Harley and Freelee's channels. Now, what I see is different from what you see. The main thing I would give like Freelee credit for, I'll just start with Freelee. I really appreciated the few videos where Freelee was just talking about her life and keeping it all the way real. So way back in the day, Freelee used to make videos talking about what it was like to be a waitress. Do you remember that? Like just talking about like jobs she did, what it was like to work in a bar, what it was like to be a waitress. Just real life stuff, real talk. And I think she was 100% honest in those videos. I don't know. I have no way to check. But they just seemed like really honest relationship. That side of what Freelee does, I do respect, and I've said that many times, saying it again now, right? Now, with Harley, the problem is he lies about so much in his own life and other people that now I don't really know if I can say that about him. You know what I mean? I don't really know if I can give him credit that way. Because what's been revealed, like you go through it step by step, and he's just lying about everything. Even like really minor trivial things where you wouldn't think a person would lie about it. So in the past, though, I would have said the same about Harley. Like in as much as he's just talking about what's real. Okay, so that's part one. Part two of your question is basically, can Chiang Mai now become a positive thing? Now that Harley has quit, right? Because he quit his own festival. And apparently Sam is going to try to take it over, you know? And it's important to note, by the way, Harley didn't come up with this idea. That before Harley and Freelee started their festival in Thailand, there already was the Chiang Mai Winter Fruit Festival, that existed first. So Harley and Freelee, they did jump on a scene some other people had already created. So they decided roughly 6 months later, there'd be a winter fruit festival and they'd have the separate Thai fruit festival in the summer, basically. So they didn't start this from a blank sheet of paper. There already was a scene there. There already were people at an annual festival. And as far as I know, that's still going on every winter, the Thai Winter Fruit Festival. Honestly, no. And I'll tell you why. It's because I really care about politics. I have a background in political science. I am not free to talk about Thai politics right now. I'm living in China. I am under real constraint of censorship, and I'm going back and forth to Thailand. Anyone who's living in Thailand, I've said this in different videos in different ways, I would urge you to just take the time to read the newspaper in English while you're in Chiang Mai. And yeah, use Wikipedia or something. Look up things you don't know or don't understand. The newspapers are censored by the government there. But if you read between the lines, you know, there's really a lot worth knowing. And for me, one of the funny ironies, when I was in Chiang Mai for the court case, I was only there for a couple of days. I bought one newspaper in English. But, you know, Harley has said repeatedly, oh, nobody ever goes to jail for a Facebook comment. And in this one newspaper, there were 3 different cases being discussed of people being in jail right now in Thailand for Facebook comments. You know, in terms of the political context, all right? So if you ask me, can we have a vegan festival in Iraq? I'd say, well, you know, that's really politically loaded, okay? If you ask me, can we have a vegan festival in South Africa? Maybe. South Africa has fabulous fruit. The greatest fresh fruit in the world, honestly, is probably South Africa. Okay, they have fabulous fruit farming tradition. Okay, well, that's a difficult decision to make. If you ask me, can we right now, 2017, 2018, 2019, is Thailand the place to do that? My answer is absolutely not, because I care about human rights. I care about the difference between a dictatorship and a democracy. I really care about what has gone disastrously wrong in Thailand over these last few years, the same years that they've been doing the Thai Fruit Festival. And I still don't know a single person there who has any interest, any engagement, any sense of moral responsibility, including the people who live there permanently. So, you know, what the fuck is your excuse, guys? You know, you guys living in Chiang Mai, I've asked that many times. And this comes back to, I mean, your question, well, you know, do I call these people scumbags? Individually, one-on-one, yes, some of them I do regard as scumbags. I don't know, if I asked you, I mean, don't answer, but if I asked you, what is your opinion really about a guy like Joe Best? You know, he is what he is. He's to me, a lot of these people, I don't. What is your real opinion about vegan Ava? No, I don't have a high opinion. We're talking about them on a one-on-one basis. But more broadly speaking, there's a difference between being awake and being asleep. If you choose to live in Haiti after the earthquake, there's a disaster, government's falling apart, society's falling apart. What the fuck is the meaning of life for you if you just say, yeah, well, there's still a beautiful beach? Haiti does have beautiful beaches, but there's a political context, there's a social context you got to care about. South Africa, Egypt, anywhere you're going to choose. But right now, ethically, politically, no. I absolutely morally oppose doing this in Thailand. I defy you. You guys go find a single video from any of the people living in Chiang Mai, whether they're living there long term for several months a year or living there permanently, because there are several people who have been there for years, and find anything facing up to the reality of the disaster that has been Thai politics during these years. And that is all I can say about that. I am not at liberty to talk about Thai politics on the internet right now. When I go back to Canada, I may be. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, are you putting yourself at risk by being in Thailand? Well, you know, like if we were talking about apartheid in South Africa decades ago when I was a child, you know, South Africa had this terrible situation. How are you going to feel being on vacation in a country where, you know, there's this horrible political system and political prisoners in jail and so on? How are you going to feel about that? South Africa still had beautiful beaches, and a lot of people went from Europe to South Africa to go vacation on the beaches, knowing that's the political context outside. I think you got to feel some sense of responsibility. As a tourist, are you safe in Thailand? You're one of the safest people in Thailand. But if you just open up the newspaper and read about university professors going to prison for daring to question the government, sometimes in a very minor way, daring to question or criticize the government, that's in the newspaper there. This is not secret information. Those are front page news in English. You don't even need to speak Thai. You don't even need to listen to the radio in Thai. If you care just a little bit about human rights and democracy, I think you would feel some sense of responsibility whether or not you're safe on the beach. And you should feel some sense of responsibility. Right. So your point is, so in Australia, there are also serious moral problems, of course, but it is also true that in Australia you have freedom of the press, free speech. If I don't know, do you have university professors and newspaper journalists going to prison for daring to criticize the government of Australia? I think either no or extremely rarely. You know, and you have elections. You know, yeah, those are important differences. But sure, but you know, you said something interesting. You said you can't really expect people to, you know, take responsibility for these things. Okay, so who are the people? If you want to just hang out with drug addicts and sex tourists, there's a lot of that in Asia. You know, people who are just there to get stoned, people who are just there to get laid. As vegans, organizing a vegan movement, we're supposed to be better than that, right? We're supposed to have a higher standard. Now, we can debate how high the standard is, but the whole point originally is that we're saving the planet. We're trying to save the world, right? There's something ethical and ecological and animal rights and all the other stuff. So now look, if you just want to get stoned and get laid, maybe it makes no difference to you if you're in the middle of a war zone, if you're in the middle of a civil war, or you're in the middle of a dictatorship or what have you. But we set for ourselves this higher standard. So in that context, I don't think it's sincere to say, oh, well, you can't expect people to care about this. If you're going to Chiang Mai to save the planet, you know, I think those are questions we got to ask ourselves. And they're questions that on my channel I asked other people. And me asking those questions had a really positive impact on people. Yeah. Overall. Look, I ask myself these questions too. I've been talking to my girlfriend seriously about enrolling in school for cuisine, you know, to be able to be a vegan chef to some extent, or do something in the food industry about veganism. Lifestyle is an aspect of what veganism is, but, you know, it's not the whole package. And I've had to ask myself all kinds of difficult questions about moral and ethical compromises, living in communist countries, living in dictatorships. I lived through the period in Thailand when they made a transition from democracy to dictatorship and so on. I have also had to ask myself those tough questions. So no, I'm not claiming I'm perfect. But on the other hand, the fact that you eat a vegan diet or promote healthy exercise doesn't make those questions irrelevant. You know, be tormented about it. If you have mixed feelings about it, go on, examine that, look into it. But I know the vast majority of these people who I know through YouTube, but some of them I've talked to on Skype or I've had messages back and forth. The vast majority of the people, they have never even read a single Wikipedia article about the political situation in Thailand. And it's not too much to ask. It's not too much to ask to say, hey, you should care.
À-bas-le-ciel.